So Amy has been in the holistic health and wellness space for over 30 years. I met Amy through the Czech Institute, and she is, so after overcoming several physical, mental, emotional health challenges and a life of people pleasing, which had resulted in much pain, conflict, and ultimately complete burnout and a midlife crisis, Amy discovered how to live a life more tapped into her heart and soul and of her own choosing, which was fully integrated, healthy, and whole. Now she is passionate about helping others do the same and loves helping women harmonize their masculine and feminine energies, step into their natural goddess nature, and regain their feminine while still keeping their sovereignty and warrior spirit. Thank you, Amy, for coming on. I am so excited about this show. Amy also has a podcast called Awakening Aphrodite, which is an amazing podcast, and I highly recommend subscribing and listening to it. And today we're going to talk about some really good topics, some that hit us on a personal level. And I believe things that could really, really help our listeners. So welcome, Amy, to the show. It's so good to have you on.
Hey, Allison, it's great to be here. And we just got to give you a shout out, girl, because we had a great episode of you on my show. That was a really popular episode, and I just love that conversation. So hopefully your listeners and viewers will check that out as well. Learn a lot about you, Miss Allison.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, it was really fun. We had a great connection. And I find that with any podcast, the information is important, but almost more important is the connection between the two people talking, right? That always makes it more fun for people to listen, and helps people who are listening connect more as well. So that, I think, has been the most important thing that I've realized since I've been podcasting, is the people that you have on your show. It always makes the show better when you are connecting with the people that you're talking to, right?
I think it's really true. And it's always a good sign when you just can keep going, and it's like our show, I had to cut it. And I think you had to go or something. It's like, okay, well, then we're having you back, because when your book comes out, you're definitely coming back. And it seems like, it's funny you said that, because it seems like the last few guests I've had in particular, I'm rebooking them already. It's like, we got more to talk about. And I just love when you really tap into someone that is passionate. And I think you can tell too, as in all of life, someone's real intention and their motivation, when someone is just really wanting to share and be vulnerable and share from the heart their experience with the intention of really trying to help others and connect. We all need so much to connect right now with this world, in from the heart. And you can really feel, I think, when people are available from the heart and putting it out there. And the guests that do that really are the ones that are the magical shows.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. It is magic when that happens.
And it's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful gift to everybody. And even for, I think, the speaker to be able to, we all want to express ourselves, and we need the courage to be able to do that. And you and I think, have gotten to the place finally where I'm ready to put it out there and express myself. I hadn't always been that way, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to talk about that, but I think it's important. So not only does just to finish my point, not only does the listener get a gift of what's being shared, but the speaker can get a gift too, because we need to express what's on our heart. That's why we communicate,
Absolutely. Yeah. We, now more than ever too, you and I talked before the show started about, the midlife journey. And, I'm going to pause for a second because I forgot to put in my phone on airplane mode. Big mistake. Okay. But that's all right. We're talking about mistakes today too. So getting out of perfection mode. That's right. So that's one thing I've noticed as I've stepped into this second, because I had a midlife crisis when I was in my 20s, and I'm having it again to some extent, but it's not as much. I wouldn't use the word crisis as much as it's more an awakening. I call it more of a midlife awakening, because I'm able to, It's really interesting. And I've been talking, I know you know Roseanne, she's been on your show, Roseanne Grace,
Love
she's been on
her.
my show, she's a regular guest. And she has helped me, peel away the identities that I had really built up and realize that our identities are what we depend on so much to build ourselves up. And then we get to this point where this midlife awakening moment, and you're realizing you don't need those identities anymore. And there's a grieving period, but there's also a letting go, right? Of that. And so that's the process where I find myself right now and really exploring that. And so with that goes with that creative expression, those ways that you haven't really allowed yourself to be creative or express yourself while you were building your life, now you have that opportunity to do that. So I feel
Mhm.
like you're in a similar position, Amy. Is that true?
Well, it's funny you said that because, it's like I've heard it be referred to in different ways. It's like the story that we tell ourselves. I remember when I was really at the bottom of like what was happening with me in my life and what we call the midlife crisis. And I love your use of the word awakening. It's much more positive, that's for sure. But I often refer to it as the midlife crisis because people can identify what the heck I'm talking about. And let me tell you, it was a crisis. It was a crisis before it became an awakening, that's for sure. But it's funny because we identify with our self identity, but our story. And I'd heard that before, but I hadn't realized how I was doing that. I mean, I remember Allison like literally waking up in the morning after a good night's sleep and being like, oh yeah, like remembering
Remembered. Yeah.
it's me and this is my life. And it was like really interesting because it made me realize how like, well, first of all, it kind of made me realize like that's really not you. Like you're kind of like you come into the world when you wake up in the morning, you're now in the conscious state, right?
Right.
And then you're recalling based on the reminders in your environment and what you had to do that day and all that stuff, like, oh yeah, this is my reality. But who's to say your dream, the subconscious, which as we know is more active part of our being, isn't the real reality? And then you wake up to your conscious brain and it's like, oh, the remembering crap. So to me it was like a trigger a little bit of like, well, maybe I can kind of like choose like a different story and set up
Yeah.
my life to remind me of something else. And obviously it was a huge wake up call as to like something is very wrong here if I'm like remembering my life and getting really sad.
Yeah. It's almost like this part we're playing, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah. And I agree with the dream state because more and more I've been able to, experience lucid dreaming. And so the dreaming that I'm experiencing is feeling more real sometimes than the awakened state. And so it's bringing me into like this place of, wow, what is real, what
Uh-huh.
is really true,
Same. Mm-hmm.
and so it makes you question like your stories, like you're saying,
So
like what
true.
are these stories, are they really true, and so like I think that you could just create whatever story you'd like to create, and that's what we're here to do and experience, but yet we limit ourselves because we talk ourselves into, oh, I have to do it this way, or have to be this person, or everybody expects me to do this, and while there are obligations and expectations that, obviously you have to step up to, in your life, like when you have kids or, when you've made certain, choices. But at the same time, there is, I think, some leeway there in how you perceive your life and how you see yourself, right? So you can be limitless within your limitations, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Katie.
And you know what else I've really been working through right now is what's really key, Allison, is the meaning we give things, right? It's all about, that the interpretation of what that really means to you,
Yes.
and I've been studying a lot. I've been fascinated with Native American teachings and ancestry work. And,
I
they,
loved that video you shared yesterday, the
oh,
Hopi video.
oh yeah, that was
That was
yesterday
incredible.
on
Yeah.
Instagram. Thank you. And I've been just absolutely enthralled. Like, and what's really funny? Okay, well, I'm gonna get really personal here, but gonna probably freak some people out. But
That's okay.
I've been doing a lot of work with, you know, I've always been a drummer. My first instrument as a
Yeah.
child was a drum, and I used to play the drums and everything. I played like several instruments. I've always loved music, been very musically inclined. It's part of why I'm a dancer. But I listened to one of my recent guests who you need to have on your show if you haven't already is Ian Morris of
Okay.
Listening to Smile. Phenomenal. And of course, in researching, I got some of his music, and it's very special music. It's different than Holosync and some of these other that are. It's really, I wouldn't do it a service to try to explain what his music is, but every day now I've been listening to some of the tracks, and there's one on Shaman. I think it's Shaman 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening, and I kind of went into another place because
Wow.
I really connected with the intention of listening. And this drum started, and all of a sudden I had visions that I was in an Indian tribe in a circle ceremony.
Wow.
And I was trying to get clarity on it. So I was just quiet with my soul. And now I've been doing 2 years of intensive soul connection work. Every single day I connect with my soul. I do this little ritual. We can talk about it if you want.
Yeah, definitely.
So this didn't just like happen,
Yeah.
and I had to really kind of focus. But the music really was a facilitator. And basically, I had to get clear on, okay, who am I here, and what's going on, and what's the relationship and all that. And the drum of the music was really bringing me back to that.
Mm.
Um, and it was just a very powerful experience, and it was definitely a previous life was the message, was that. So I think what I'm getting at is a long-winded way of saying that my connection to the drum and this type of music, and the interest in Native American teachings and wisdom, because I'm telling you, I'm like obsessed with it. It's probably because in a previous life I was probably a medicine woman in a tribe or something of that nature. So but in part of their teaching, so many amazing things that we can talk about, because I know you're so interested in nature as I am. They teach to make sacred the mundane. And that's actually a common term that I'm sure many people have heard of, really, in any spiritual teaching. That a lot of times when an apprentice works with a master, they have them, sweep the floor for like a day, like from noon to dusk. They just sweep the floor with no instruction, no nothing, just sweep the floor. And it's something, it's really opened up such a beauty in me, because we all have mundane things we have to do in our lives. We have to do laundry, and we have to do the dishes, and we got to take the kids to school, and, just chores and all this stuff. And for me, it's like chopping vegetables to make healthy food. And it's like, and I always find I'm like rushing, and I'm multitasking. I'm listening to a podcast, or I'm this or that, and it's like, so it's really changed a lot of my everyday being in trying to, with intention, make sacred the mundane, and do it with a respect and awareness and a presence, a certain energy. Because to me, energy is not really about what you're doing, it's how you're being while you're doing it. That I think a lot of people overlook. They think, oh, I got to go do yoga, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. And it's like, well, it's really about the energy you're bringing to that moment. So
Absolutely.
I know I'm kind of going a lot of places.
No,
there,
please keep going. I love where we're going with this.
But I guess I'm just trying to share, because since my midlife crisis, and I pivoted my life, and am now really doing what my soul is directing me to do, which has been such a beautiful gift. And I'm so grateful I lived long enough to have that. And I know a lot of people don't get to do that, but it's like I'm on fire, and my
amazing.
Coach, Paul Check, our mutual friend, and I've known him. He's basically was the start of my career 30 to 25 years ago. he actually wanted me to take time off. I should be on a sabbatical. I was mentally, physically, emotionally completely burnt out, like 100% burnt out, done, cooked. And if it wasn't for my healthy lifestyle habits that I learned in my work, that I probably wouldn't have been standing. He actually used to say to me, like, it's a miracle you can even do anything that you're doing. And it's
Yeah.
testimony to what we do. And I know you practice the same stuff and what you help people with, that it's living testimony that it works. But what I'm getting at is he had said, you need to take time off, like because I've always been an overachiever and that whole thing. That's a whole nother discussion we can get into. But I kind of didn't. I definitely backed off, and I had to make arrangements to end that previous situation I was in to open up the new opportunities. But when my soul started to come online, it was like the energy gates just opened up, the dam burst, and it was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still get tired and all that stuff, but when your soul is on board and your heart is driving you, there's a difference between working hard out of love and just working hard because you're working hard.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the things that Paul said to me that I will never forget, it's like when your love is labor, it's not really labor, it's a labor of love. But if it's not love in the labor, it's just labor.
Yes.
And I never really understood that concept because my whole life, it was just labor and it was
That's
service.
right.
And you're in the service industry like me. It's like, particularly when you kind of heal yourself and learn how to do it, you want to share it, right? You want other people to know. So I was so driven to serve, to help people, and seeing people need so much help. They're so confused, they're so lost, and it's really so simple. It doesn't have to be that hard. And you and I talk about this all the time, right? It doesn't have to be that hard. So we want so desperately to help other people. If you had a lifeboat and people were drowning, wouldn't you go over and try to get them in your boat?
Yes.
Right. So
absolutely.
I was driving myself into the point of destruction. It was almost like I needed an intervention to help me save myself. And then I did. And so now I'm kind of on the other end of it. And but my point is to people that everyone's so tired, right? And once you kind of clean up the foundational basics, and then you tap in to what your soul came here to do and what lights you up on fire inside in your interest, like for me, Native American healing and learning about the divine feminine and all that stuff. Energy is not an issue. It's like you're just interested, you're engaged, you just find the energy. You don't need to cultivate it.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with that. And I've experienced similar things where I was so much a doer. I was so much a striver. I was hustling all the time to try to, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do to prove your worth. And, it's just like, this is, when I talk about identities, like, that's what I mean. Like, yes, we need those to some extent, and then we don't need them anymore. So, to build ourselves up as far as like, as you grow, you build these identities, but then I think when you depend on them so much and do by doing, to support those identities, it's like you can overdo it, like what you're talking about. And I've experienced that too. I totally went through like adrenal burnout, low thyroid. It just literally brought me down where I couldn't do anything. I didn't have the energy anymore. I couldn't push through. Whereas before I was really pushing through, and that's how I was making it. And now I'm experiencing life like you're describing, Amy, where you're actually following, like I'm following my passions. I'm following what interests me for the first time in my life, really, instead of going about doing things that I feel like I'm good at, that I'm supposed to be, like, it's not to say that my life was wasted. Like, I feel like I've done what I've been supposed to, I was very interested in gymnastics. I was very interested in holistic health and went in that direction with training and stuff. And those are all those are all things I was really passionate about and good at. And then there was a part of me too that wanted to be an artist and wanted to be a singer and wanted to like really
Wow.
express myself through music, right? So
Oh, wow.
now I'm getting in dance, and dance is something that I pursued more when I went in my 20s, and then have kind of had to let go a little bit because I'm just not able to dance in groups anymore right now. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think what we're talking about here is that as you go through the stages of life, there's an opportunity to acknowledge your next desire, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessary. And then your way of doing things, you have all this energy when you're younger, but then as you get older, you're realizing I can't push like that anymore. That's not the most optimal way to get through life. And so it's a natural, I think, occurrence, because otherwise we would never really evolve and grow spiritually, right? If we couldn't slow down and to like notice these things. So I think it's beautiful that you're embracing these parts of yourself, and then the drumming is creating this remembrance of this past life, which is so cool. And I think it's these subtle things in life. If we're paying attention, it's going to draw us down that path that we really want to go down, and create, get us, I guess, closer to our destiny, and going in that direction. But if we're ignoring it, then we're going to have probably more crisis episodes in our life, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything you said is right on. And I'll say too about the identity thing. I think people have to also embrace and remember you could be multiple identities, because a lot of times
Exactly.
I'm a mom and this is what moms do. Moms wear mom jeans. Moms have short hair. Moms are proper.
Yeah.
It's like, screw that. You
Yeah.
can be like that, sure, if that really is where your heart is singing. But you can also be a goddess in the bedroom, and you can
It's
get
true.
nasty if you have to, and you can be a mama bear if someone crosses your kids or threatens them, or you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
we're all of it. And that's part of why I just love my show, Allison, because I had to learn how to balance and harmonize and have discretion when it came to my masculine and feminine energy, because I lived my life in my masculine. I was in my head growing up in New England, the Puritan work ethic. And I grew up with a workaholic family, a very loving family, but we did the right thing and we worked, and you worked till your fingers bled. And if your fingers bled, you kept going till your hands bled. And then, it's like,
Yes.
it was a badge of honor who could be in work first and home last and had no social life. And so I very much lived in my masculine, and that whole people pleasing thing, do what was expected of me. And I'm just so grateful the second half of my life that I was able to course correct and integrate all of who I am, because regardless of how we identify, we as a living creature are both the masculine, the feminine, the yin and the
Mm-hmm.
yang. We're all of it. And it's just a matter of whatever your individual soul identifies with as being a little more of,
Yeah.
and at times we fluctuate, right? So what
Right.
I like to explain to people, not only that is an important point to remember, doesn't matter if you're really girly girl, you still have masculine in you, and you want to have masculine in you. Otherwise, you're never going to get anything done.
It's true.
Okay. But
Yeah.
it really doesn't matter which one you primarily identify with. What really, to me, I think is the key is having the wisdom and the discretion to know when it's appropriate to be in more one energy than the other energy. As I
Yes.
said, a girly girl can be wonderful if that's really what makes you feel beautiful and in love and open and just everything you want to feel. Just remember, there's going to be times where you got to speak up for yourself, and you got to get stuff done, and you got to focus, and you got to have structure, and you got to be on time, and all the stuff that's more the masculine stuff. But for me, I just didn't have any. Well, I don't say any. I identify as a woman. I hopefully look like a woman, you know. But
You are a
I
beautiful woman. I can
Oh,
tell you
thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
I didn't have, let's just say the feminine was definitely not predominant in my life. And she always took a back seat, and she definitely was not as respected, and she wasn't as rewarded as the masculine. And I actually, that was part, I had a weight problem. I had my hair super short. And it wasn't until kind of like college that I started growing my hair out, and I started doing dance and my body changed. I started losing weight, started getting attention from boys. And the next thing you know, I was like, oh, I like this feminine stuff, because who doesn't want attention and love, right?
Yes.
And then I was always athletic and in fitness, and it was always sports. So I was always like the real strong girl, in sports. But then my body started changing again. I started getting attention in a different way. And I was like, oh, so then I kind of went more into fitness,
All right.
because too, after college, in my day, there were no Olympics for women. There were no anything after school. You're done
Right.
sports. That's it. You're done. There's no more. So that sucked. So then I went into, it was the 80s with Jane Fonda and
What
aerobics.
kind of sports were you in
Oh,
high school?
Allison, I played soccer for America.
Oh,
Actually, I was on the
wow.
American ambassador soccer team. So it actually would have been the Olympic team if they had it for women back then.
Wow.
But I played everything though. My soccer was really my main thing, but gosh, softball, basketball, any sport to this day. I just love sports. I like playing though. I don't like watching.
Right.
Not a good spectator, other than maybe football. But I even thought about playing football actually, like about 5 years ago, because my niece she was actually the number one MVP on the American Football League team. She's
Wow.
a New England team, the Boston Renegades. Yeah. And I actually wanted to play because I missed the competition and of course the exercise and all that. But
Right.
long story, just didn't logistically could not do it. Plus I didn't want to get like
Hurt.
lose a tooth or anything. Yeah, all that
Yeah.
stuff. I mean,
Can
these are young
understand.
kids. I would have certainly
Yeah.
been the granny on the team, that's for sure. But anyway, yeah, so
But then you
it's
got
just,
into fitness after that, you were saying?
oh yes. So then I get into fitness and yeah. So that's when things started to change because, I wasn't used to getting all this positive male attention from my
Mm.
body, my looks, all this stuff. And I needed an outlet for my athleticism. So I got certified to teach aerobics. And that was amazing. And then I combined healthy athletic with music. I died and went to heaven. It was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm
Yeah.
getting paid for, well, not a lot, but I was getting paid to teach classes and it's everything that I wanted to be. So that was a game changer for me. That started my fitness career, was getting a certification to teach aerobics.
And you
And
mentioned Jane Fonda, which I loved Jane Fonda too. That was one
she
of my
was
she was one of my inspirations as well.
she was a
Get
grandmother to a
yeah.
lot of that fitness industry for women, that's for sure.
Yes.
Feel the burn. I still remember the music and everything in that home recording, and but you know what, just to be totally transparent here, I also saw the very bad side of the fitness industry because
Mhm.
I moved to Miami and I started doing fitness modeling. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I did the magazines and all that stuff. And whew,
Yeah, that's
boy, was that a real dangerous game to play for that external validation of my internal worth. And
wow.
I didn't know it at the time, of course. No, I mean, I'm sure there's people out there now. Oh, that's not me. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it probably is. And talking about the identity, so I became, and then of course it's inspiring to see someone who's fit, and I want to look like you, and all that stuff. And but I did, I was proud of myself though. I certainly was doing it in healthy ways. I never did anything that unhealthy, other than probably having an eating disorder. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I definitely would go to bed hungry and,
Yeah.
really learned. And you, as a real world-class gymnast, I'm sure you really learned to override when your body was tired or hungry or whatever, because as a gymnast, you definitely have to look a certain way for sure, not to mention
Yeah.
function. So that was just a really interesting thing to realize, like, wow, that was not healthy. And to me, it was also being incongruent, excuse me, because, here we are trying to be a role model for health and fitness when, we're doing it at the expense of our own being, if we're really not doing it in the way that you should, like I'm doing it now. That's balanced, and not
Mhm.
doing it for, oh, look at, not that I never did the, oh, look at me, but I definitely did the validation of, wow, you look
Yeah,
great.
some form of an acknowledgement, right? Like, hey, look,
Sure,
yeah,
I definitely
that's
did,
normal.
and
Yeah.
that was just my lack of self-esteem or ego or whatever it was. And hopefully it's healed now. But, and of course, I still, who doesn't like it now? I'm sure.
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
gonna be like, oh, don't compliment me. Please. I mean, that's fine.
I mean,
But
we all want to look good in our
of
bodies. I mean, that
course,
there's nothing wrong with that,
exactly. It's just
Yeah,
a different motivation. And I think that's
exactly.
the key. And
Hmm.
I don't need it. I don't
Yes.
need it to not, I don't think I ever, maybe I did need it. I mean, I guess if I really thought about it, maybe I did.
Maybe at
Um,
that time, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but I don't know. And it's
Yeah.
just amazing. I've cultivated, Allison, a relationship with myself where, I have fun with myself sometimes and I laugh at myself. It's almost like there's two me's in the room and I kind of do stupid stuff and I laugh, and it's like, it's like it's a different way of being. And just the bottom line, I'm just so grateful I've lived this long to get to here, because wow, my life's so much better.
Yeah. Do you think it has a lot to do with that perfectionistic attitude? I mean, that's what comes to mind when you say that, because I
Yep.
can relate to that as well. And
High achiever. Absolutely.
yeah, just
Yeah.
wanting to present yourself almost like, this is the way I look at it actually. You're because I realized this within myself actually, and started identifying it as this. You are trying to control other people's experiences of you, right? To some extent.
Yep.
So therefore you try your best to look this certain way, or to present yourself a certain way, or to say the right thing, right? Not make any mistakes. Whereas what I didn't realize when I was younger, and creating this whole scenario of controlling other people's experiences of me, and thinking that was safe for various reasons, like we all have reasons we do things in life, and uh, but I think what I didn't understand was that why people love what people love in each other is our mistakes, basically,
Yeah.
or the things, the imperfections in life,
I didn't
because
realize that either.
that's what leads
Mm.
to creativity. That's what leads to joy. That's what leads to play. I mean, you can't
Leads to
really play
connection.
without that.
Connection.
Yeah,
I'm so
exactly.
glad you said that. I think that's brilliant. I had the same experience. I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm just amazed
No,
that you
go
said that,
ahead.
because
Yeah.
the same thing happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like it. It sounds like we've been on a very similar trajectory here. And that's probably why we connect so well.
Yeah.
And it is about connection. It's like, how, if you are not allowing yourself to be vulnerable, if you're always controlling other people's experiences of you, then you're not being vulnerable. And then it's really hard to connect with someone who's not like really exposing themselves to
Hmm.
another person, right? And
True.
that I've learned through my relationship. Um, and but that extends out to everything you do, right? I mean,
Hmm.
we don't have to. I mean, we can keep things sacred about ourselves, most certainly. We don't have to expose everything, but there is this relief in exposing you. Like, this is me, like, okay,
Yes.
take it or leave it. You
Relief.
know what I mean?
Yep.
And but the hiding aspect of our lives, and I feel like that's almost gotten even more so in the past couple of years with the whole pandemic and the mask wearing and everything, just hiding, being afraid. I feel like we're going to need to step into this exposure aspect of ourselves even more so, to heal those parts and to be able to step into our creativity and our play. Like, that's needed more than ever, you know,
Mm.
since we've been
Hmm.
through this experience. I think. What is your take on that? What is your opinion or perspective about what we've been going through this past couple of years and what we're needing most?
Oh God, it's the Great Awakening. I mean,
Yeah.
this has been prophesized for centuries. Actually, it's part of why I posted the Hopi Indian video the other day on my Instagram. because the time that and it's even astrology. I've had astrologers on my show. I mean, everything that's happening was already prophesized. This was going to happen now.
Right.
So this is our opportunity, because we're on the verge of the next mass extinction. If we take a left or take a right, it depends. It's up to us. So if we're alive right now, our souls chose to be here right now, and we have a decision to make. Do we want to live on our feet, or do we want to die on our knees? Which one? It's your choice. And to me, it's the opportunity to be congruent with your values and put your money where your mouth is, and what you say is important to you. If freedom is important to you, truth is important to you, honesty is important to you, integrity is important to you, love is important to you, connection, valuing life, human life, nature, all of life. If you believe we are all one and God is love, it's time to start putting your money where your mouth is and speak up. We need to align our body, mind, soul with our voice, and not be passively just hoping others will do it, or trusting it's going to work out. And I'm sorry to say, but what's really become apparent is that not everyone has values. Not everyone has high moral standards, and not everyone thinks and feels the way you and I do, Allison.
Yeah.
And, the good of humanity, what's best for other people. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people are assigning trust and good faith in others because they have it themselves, but they're not doing so warranted. It's not earned. Trust is earned, right? I mean, to blindly trust is not intelligent. And I'm all for trusting, or at least, but that saying, trust but verify, right?
Absolutely.
And if someone doesn't earn your trust, or is certainly shown to violate trust or do things that are suspicious, or multiple motives here, or something's not right, what I always say to people is number one, you have to cultivate a relationship with yourself to be able to have your soul connection as a barometer, as feedback, as information as to what is true source. Okay. Yes. And then you weigh anything that's happening to you, anything in your life, against the wisdom of your heart. You have to go within to connect. And that's what all the Hopi Indians and all the ancient cultures, they all taught us, that, God is everywhere. God is within. God is you. Yes. And a lot of people think that that's heresy or, blasphemy, but it says in all religions that we're made from the divine. The divine made us. The divine is in us. You got to tap into that part of you that's your higher self, which is love, right? If love is unconditional in all things, then it's unconditional in all things. Right. And it's in you. So that wisdom that you seek, that advice, that truth is in you. But we have to go in and feel it. You have to embody it. It's not something you're going to intellectualize. Exactly. It's not something you're going to think your way to. It's a feeling, it's an embodiment. And that requires a relationship. You don't just all of a sudden, I know what to do, or maybe you do. That's great if you have a really strong instinct and intuition. But most of us have to really, because when something gets emotional, it gets very murky, right? It's very easy to make decisions when you're not attached, right? Think of the last time you're going to fight with somebody or whatever, right? But when something's like, do I buy that house? Do I stay in this marriage? Do it my job? Like, when something's emotional, we get really cloudy. What the hell to do, right? Yeah. It's very, very hard. So that's why it takes, and how do you build a relationship? By time and investment every day, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 2 minutes, 1 minute, whatever, remembering, put a sticky note. How do you feel? Go within for a minute. Yeah, but, I never cultivated that feeling part of me. It was because that's your feminine side, right? I didn't have the luxury to feel. It wasn't okay.
Well, it takes practice.
I was literally told, like, don't feel that way. Well, what do you mean don't feel that way? I do, I'm supposed to just ignore it. Yep. And that's when you get an addiction, because that's when you overeat, overshop, overwork out, overwork, whatever, pick your poison, pick your self-medication of not feeling, over social media, right? Over busy, whatever it is, these are all, I call it a creative distraction. We
Oh, yeah.
create these distractions from this uncomfortable feeling that we don't know how to feel.
That
I've
is
done it my whole
so
life. I
such a
get
great
it.
way to put it, Amy. I can relate because I've done that so much in my life
We all
too.
have.
Yeah. Creative distractions. That's
You
that's
like
really a
that?
great
Yeah.
way. Yeah,
I
yeah,
should
I love
patent
it.
that. Yeah.
You should.
Creative distraction. Yeah. Because,
Because it's a great way to describe it. It really
yeah,
is. That's what's happening. Yeah.
well, we aren't taught like these ancient cultures how to resource ourselves, how to help ourselves. Like, and that's why, I mean, we're doing the best we can. When you're addicted to something, you're not a bad person. And there's, shame is going to be the number one thing that prevents you from healing.
Yeah.
You're addicted to something, whatever it is, because it's meeting a need that you don't know how else to meet.
Mm-hmm,
You're not a
mm-hmm.
bad person. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Right,
think
right.
about that. It's like you don't know what else to do. And
Yeah.
then unfortunately, some of these products, whether, like cigarettes, for example, have addictive chemicals in them to make you addicted. And that's another story to get physically
Right.
addicted. But it's about learning other outlets, other ways. And that's why, again, I go back to the ancient cultures, because they knew they didn't have all these medicines and gadgets and everything. And they were a hell of a lot healthier and happier. That's for
Yes.
sure. But they
Yes.
grew up in their cultures being completely in unison as part of nature. They thought animals were their friends. They were their brothers and sisters with fur on them,
Right.
and they worked with the elements. They worked with all that is, because it's what sustained them. It was their God, because
Mm-hmm.
technology wasn't their God, and
Yeah.
money wasn't their God. But this was the rain is what made the crops grow, which fed their families, and so the elements were part of who they were. And there was a reverence and a respect
Mm-hmm.
and a harmony with it. And they never killed an animal without a reverence. They never overkilled. Like, there wasn't a surplus. They only killed, and they always did so with a divine respect for that creature before taking its life, with the understanding with that creature's soul that I'm taking your life in order to give life to my family, sustain my family. And someday,
Yeah.
when my body dies, my body will go into the earth, and it will feed the soil and the microorganisms, which will grow the vegetation, which will feed your family. And this is the circle of life. So it
Mm-hmm.
was always a respect. Nowadays, we get Jack in the Box and we stuff it while we're going through the drive-through, and we're on our phone and listening to YouTube or whatever the hell it is. And
Yeah.
we're not even thinking about putting our body. We don't know where that food came from. We've
Right.
lost that connection. And that's why, like I was saying earlier, as I've developed trying to bring a sacred to the mundane when I'm preparing my vegetables and doing all these mundane things of chopping and all that, I try to have a moment of respect and thanks to the sun that grew this food, to the water that grew this food, to this, or if I'm eating, a steak or whatever, to the animal that sacrificed itself. Now, do I do it all the time? No, I'm not in the habit of it yet. I'm trying. And I certainly do it in my prayers every morning. So to me, it's been a game changer.
Yeah.
Allison, it's helped me just be easier in life and just be much more present, much more open, much more loving, because I'm living such a state of gratitude for the little things. And you had asked,
Mm-hmm.
what's my take on all of it? And other than the great awakening and the great opportunity that it is, it's also really crystallized our priorities and what's important. And what's important is our connection, our
Yeah.
family, our freedom, right? Healthy food and being healthy in our
Yes.
life. So it's a beautiful opportunity, I think, although scary at the same time, but it's a time to take action and live your values.
Absolutely. Yes. And gosh, there is a level, there's a level of reverence, like it sounds like you're saying, that could be taken into account as we look at our life and we go through life, instead of just hustling or pushing through or striving through life, actually taking the time to appreciate what we have in front of us and experience it that way. And that is the magic, I think, from I've experienced on a personal level as well. I wanted to just acknowledge something you talked about earlier about what came up for me when we talk about people who are not really seeing the truth of or some of the truth. There's never any one truth, but there's something, like, for example, the pharmaceuticals, like we tend to, and this is not a bad thing, to want to humanize or see somebody as making the same choices in life, that are seeing it from our perspective of what we would do if we have integrity, right? But there is a naivety that's happening right now with people where they haven't been exposed to that. You and I have been exposed to that world for a long time, and we know what's going on behind the scenes. But a lot of people are very new to that, and they don't understand that there is this something that's been going on for a long time that's just now being exposed.
Yep.
As far as the intention, it's just something that's
the corruption,
not good intent, not good intentions. Exactly. And for whatever reason, I don't know exactly what people's, I mean, I could guess that it would be money. I can guess that it would be power, but I think there is definitely something nefarious going on. And at the same time, it's nothing to be feared so much, because the fear I've noticed too is how
it's part of the whole
thing.
Yep.
How they control people's emotions and get people to go in certain directions. So I think,
and to fight each other.
Yeah, separate. So from my perspective, I think that you can. So you can kind of grasp the situation, the reality of it, right, without going into the fear aspect of it. So not being so naive about it and seeing it for what it is, and then saying, okay, well, I'm not gonna. It's almost like a roller coaster ride, where you're going down and it's not, you're not going to die, but it's very scary, right? And knowing that, if you can start coming back to yourself, like you're saying, cultivate that relationship with yourself, so you can have enough discernment to not necessarily put the blinders over your eyes, but to be able to notice what is true for you, right? And what is the reality of the situation. Then you are going to have the tools to be able to honor yourself, to be able to liberate yourself, so to speak, as it relates to anything that we go through. And you're going to have the tools, right? But if you just do this and you pretend like it's not happening, or it's not there, or this is, so evil, I can't even, I can understand, like, at first being like, oh my God, I can't, this is not something I want to know about, right? Because it's
so
terrible.
bad. You can't even imagine how bad it is. It's like unbelievable. Yeah.
But at the same time, I believe that these people are also playing a role to wake people up, right?
They're galvanizing the rest of us. Yep.
Yeah. Sure. So it's like, okay, we have to actually take the blinders off, see what's in front of us, and, approach it from that warrior perspective. Like,
and this is the thing, is we have a choice. It's like, it's a choice, and not doing anything, being passive, hoping other people will, or you can just be an ostrich and put your head under the couch till you wake up and it's all back to the way it was in 2019, is a choice. Not taking action is an action. And that's what I tell people. And, I've lost friends, relationships. I've been isolated. I spent the holidays alone. I mean, it's not an easy choice. But let me tell you something, I've never had a better relationship with myself. And I was saying earlier that I don't do stuff anymore for the external validation. It's about the internal validation for me. And I'll find my people. Like I found you, right? Yeah, I mean, you and I have aligned values. And I'll say it again, people have this is an opportunity. It's a choice to walk your talk. Like if you really say these things are important to you, anyone can say it when it's easy. Right? Anyone could have said it in 2019 that freedom is important and truth is important and honesty and disclosure and, well, guess what? And guess what, Allison? The truth is not hard to find either. It's not hard to find. If you just got to do a little looking, and you're not going to find it.
It's not hard at all.
by
to find
any
the
of the
information.
major news outlets and anything, because and then that's part of the issue, is
Yeah.
that people have to realize that those are controlled by, 5 companies, and it's a very much a curated message. It's propaganda that's being told to you. There's a reason why they're all saying the same thing. And
Yeah.
that's a whole nother discussion. There's lots of resources that people can find out. But for those people who choose to not pay attention and just want to be on their phone and go about their job and whatever, that's great. I don't do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
But some of us are going this way because we're thinking long term, like, where's this going? What's going to be next? And I'm not okay with that. Like, I'm not okay with somebody that has these motives and this is really what's going on behind the scenes, because I have a sense of what's right and wrong. And
Yes.
anyway,
Everybody's
and I
gonna
want to
know.
protect the
It's
planet too.
called integrity. It's
Thank you.
whole, being whole,
Yeah.
bringing yourself all together.
Yeah.
And I think that we're all going to have our parts to play within that too, Amy. Like there's some
Mhm.
people that are going to go and to the protests and push back. There's some people that are
Mhm.
going to be lawyers and all this. There's some
Mhm.
people that are going to just work on themselves and teach other people how to work on themselves and get closer to that. And you have to, I think what I'm learning is you just have to get close to what your role is in all of this, what you feel like your purpose is in it, and go with that. Like you don't have to be everything, you don't have
I
to.
think so too. And I think there's another place though that a lot of people can go, Allison, that's somewhere in the middle as well, is but speaking your truth at the moment, even on your
Oh yeah,
social
right,
media, even on
right.
your social media, like, like, or just when someone asks you, oh, you're not wearing a mask, or did you get one of the inoculations? Because they're not vaccines, they're actually inoculations because
Yeah.
they don't meet the criteria for an actual vaccine. So I don't call them that. You can say, there's your opportunity to say, no, I didn't because of this and that. That's an
Yeah.
opportunity to walk your truth and be in integrity. This is what I'm talking about. So there's another, it doesn't mean you have to be holding up a picket sign and doing all
Right.
this crazy stuff, or just completely complying to everything and believing everything's true because you want it to be.
Yeah.
There's a middle ground of a normal everyday life, so to speak. And you don't have to be someone like me who puts it on my social media because that's me being in my integrity for my platform. But you could be the person that just say so, or even just ask the question, like, gee, this seems odd that Fauci's wife is the head of product development and approval. Like, is that weird? Even asking that
Yeah,
question.
just getting curious about it,
Yeah,
I
but
mean, that's,
like, you're
yeah.
not really saying a stance, but you have a right to ask that question. Whereas some people would attack that person for even asking the question. It's like, you can't even ask the question. Well, then that's a red flag right there. So
Absolutely.
people can just live their integrity in whatever way feels right to them, but in some way you got to live it.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
never going to be healthy. You're never going to be
Absolutely.
happy. You're never going to have peace of mind, peace in your heart. You're never going to be able to sleep at night. Your body won't feel right. Something will be wrong. So you've got to find your way of what feels right to you and see what happens. And you know what? Don't be afraid of losing friends and family and offending people, because they're not your people. If you lose them, or be the example of someone who's brave and who's speaking their truth,
Yeah.
because people need the world. People in the world need people in the world that are speaking their truth, and good role models of how to do that, and do it with love and integrity. Do I have all the answers? Hell no. Do I know what's right? No, but I can at least ask and be on a search for it. And when it feels right, you know it. And you can't argue with results either. And like we said before, a lot of this is right in front of our faces. They're not even hiding it. It's
Yeah.
right there. I mean, look
It
it up.
is. And
It's
all
all
you have
out
to
there.
do if you don't want to do something is just say, no, I'm not going to do that.
There you go.
That's really it. I mean, that's
There you go.
enough
And,
right there.
and you know
Yeah.
what? Live and let live is what I
Yeah.
say. Like, if
Yeah.
you want to go ahead, I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to love
Exactly.
you anyway. And that's fine. But, don't impose it on me, so to speak.
Yeah, I
So,
agree 100%.
of course,
Well,
we agree
hey,
on everything.
I know, right? It's easy. But I also appreciate everybody's role in this as well. Even the bad guys, so to
Mm,
speak, or like,
yeah.
the people who are really not, maybe not aware of everything that's happening and they're on
Yep.
board with everything. And, they all, we're all where we're at. And again, meeting people where they're at too. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
have to, you know, agree with each other on everything either. You just sometimes, and maybe sometimes you just need to leave it, and let people kind of do what they need to do and
That's a
go
good point.
through
A lot of it is timing, and it's like, like anything, even with your clients or whatever is, or your kids, you say something and it doesn't sink in, but you say it again a couple of months later, you say it, and then all of a sudden, like 2 years later, they're like, yeah, now I think I'm ready, or now I know what you were talking about, so, but that's why speaking up now is so important, because at least you're planting the seeds, like somebody's questioning the narrative here. Like, we're not all drinking the Kool-Aid, or something doesn't match up. Because when I look into it, I find this, and even this, and that, it's like, well, this doesn't jive. So my radar's up.
Yeah.
And then people can, if they want to follow that rabbit trail, great. A lot of people, they think ignorance is bliss. Great. Whatever. I mean, it's your life, it's like, that's
fine. Create it however you want it. Yeah, exactly.
And like you said, timing, I think, is key too, because you never know. Even on your podcast, Allison, you never know when someone's going to listen to a certain show, or something you say is going to resonate or hit, or they're going to remember it years later. I have people say that to me now. When I taught back in the 80s aerobics class, I said something at the end of a class one day or whatever. Right. And someone would say, that time you said that, and I always think of that. I'm like, huh?
Wow. I know, right? Isn't that amazing?
But we all do that, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to we all do that with your kids or whatever. You never know when something's going to land with somebody in your world. And that's why we're all teachers for each other, and we're all students, and life is always trying to give you help. And we have to just open our minds and our hearts to how that's going to come, because it's often, most of the time, in my experience, doesn't come as you expect it to. It's not going to be like an obvious thing, delivered at your door. It's going to be something else.
But a lot of times it's nothing like you imagined it would be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Amy, so much. And if you would please leave my listeners with how to get in touch with you, more about your show, what you're offering, anything you want to share.
Oh, thank you, Allison. It's really just been such a pleasure to be here. Obviously, we could go on forever. I feel like everybody's eavesdropping on our conversation one night over a glass of wine in our house.
Yes.
But thank you. My podcast is Awakening Aphrodite. And my website is my name, amyfournier.com. And that's AMY, F as in Fox, OURN as in Nancy, IER.com. And my social media is Fit Amy TV. That's my Instagram, Fit Amy TV. It's also my YouTube, Fit Amy TV. And Facebook is just my name, Amy Fournier.
Awesome. Well, you have a fantastic podcast, so I recommend everybody listen to it. I will put all those links in the show notes as well to make it easy for everybody to find you.
I'll have to give you the link to that you're on my show, Allison. I don't remember what number it was, but I can give that to you, because I'm sure your listeners are going to want to hear their girl.
That link is also on my Instagram link tree. So if anybody wants to watch that show too, but I'll also include it in the show notes as well.
Thanks, Allison. And I can't wait to have you back once you write your book. Woo-hoo.
I know my book's coming out February, so I'll schedule another show with you. I'm sure there's so much to talk about. We can always find so much to talk about, can't we?
Obviously. Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Allison.
Bye-bye.